Marie, we're going to talk a lot about your social media influence and your reach and your journey and how you really built a bigger market for yourself. So let's get started. Marie, I met you through Arjun Dingra, a client that everybody knows, and he has scaled his business too. One way that he scaled his business, which eventually caught your eye, because I asked you, I said, how did you meet Arjun? You said, I don't know, I'd probably found him on social media. Arjun literally started over and built, I think he's up to a 56,000 person following in 2 years. And so when you create that type of leverage, that type of exposure, you're going to get the eyeballs of agents across the country like Marie. So you and I bantered several months ago. We got to know each other. You grew up in Hawaii, Maui. And then coincidentally, you work with Chris, who is also a KMPC loan officer client. So that was a little bit coincidental. But one of the things that I really noticed about you was your social media presence. And I really want to talk about that. And when I called you, we talked a little bit about your story. You said something that was really interesting. But before we get into that, just tell us really quickly so people have some reference who you are. How did you start your market? What are some of the cool things that you do? And then we'll talk about your social media and everything else.
Okay, sounds good. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I've been in real estate just about 18 and a half years. It's been a long time. Like you said, from Maui, grew up with entrepreneurial parents, thought I was going to be in a completely different world and went to college for pre-med and then quickly decided, nope, I'm not doing that. Got into some event wedding planner, ended up in real estate. So here I am. But yeah, I work for Berkshire Hathaway. When I first started business, worked for a builder. So did a lot of new construction, gave me a great background for just how homes are built. So I'm lucky I have that kind of knowledge built in with real estate, but did a lot of resale and eventually just got to the point where I was like, I need more listings and I need to build my own brand. And that's where video really came in. And we'll get into that a little bit more, I think, here shortly. But that's just kind of a little bit about me. I'm in the Portland metro area and yeah, just super grateful to be living this crazy career.
Yeah. So you said something, and I really want to kick off today's discussion with this. You said, I think it was about 2016, when you started to realize that agents were beating you out on deals, not because they were better, but because they had more exposure and people knew who they were. So
Yep.
it was like their branding was beating you, just the name was beating you, not the actual skill set. That was about 2016. And then you had
Yep.
this revelation. And back then, 2016, it's not like today with Instagram Reels and TikTok and everything else. You delved into the world of video.
Yeah. It was actually like 2012. And I had just had my second son and I was literally getting like beat out listing after listing. In my town, there were two agents that were dominating listings and for literally no reason and no offense to them, like they were just more established, maybe had a little extra experience than I did and just were better known in the community, but not better known because of things they were doing right necessarily. They were just out there. And I quickly realized that to really succeed as a realtor, like you need listings. I had two littles and I was like, I can't be running around with buyers all the time. And I was so buyer heavy. And I was like, I've got to get listings. And I think that's where video kind of came in for me is like, what can I do to really build my brand, establish trust before I even meet somebody in person, create connection, show value that I bring to clients and actually provide more value because we are dealing with people's biggest investments typically of their lives. I feel like it's a disservice to not provide the best marketing we can provide and then just generate warm leads and be the agent people call for listings.
Yeah. So if you want to follow Marie on Instagram, she is Marie B Realty. And I got to tell you, I followed you, I'd say this past year, and impressive when it comes to consistency is definitely an understatement. Because here I am in the last 2 weeks, I'm just like checked out. I don't even respond to emails. People are like, dude, did you get my email? I don't even respond to emails saying, did you receive my email? Because I'm just checking out. And here Marie is on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, just posting 3 posts to her stories a day, just consistent. You did the 12 days of Christmas, and all of a sudden you transition into New Year's. And I got to tell you, that consistency of in-your-face marketing really puts you on the map. But here's the thing. I think it's really impressive when we see the end result, but everybody here wants to get at that level, but I really want to talk about your journey to that level because that's important. It's like you see the person that's in shape with the abs and everything, but it's like you don't understand what they had to go through. So take us back to 2012. That wasn't even really an Instagram world. You were probably doing YouTube, Facebook. What was that like? And literally tell us, I don't know if you have it, but do you have an old ugly video? Sometimes I
Oh
show,
man.
look at like my
I mean,
really,
they're all on YouTube if anyone wants to go
yeah.
down that rabbit hole. And that's not pretty. Let me tell you that. And yes, I will, before I dive into that, consistency is literally key. I get asked all the time, what's the secret? Like, how do you do this much business? How are you getting this many leads? And I'm like, it is just consistency. I show up when I don't want to, when I'm tired. Like literally on Christmas Eve, the last thing I wanted to do was post my last day of my 12 days of Christmas. But I was like, I have to do it. Like I've committed to this. I'm doing it. There's no other option. And that's like tomorrow I'm shooting a 2025 design trends video. And like the last thing I truthfully want to do right now. And I'm not prepared, but I'm going to do it. Like you got to do it. Right. But anyway, so 2012, back to realizing like needed new listings. What could I do? A video looked a lot different than what it looks like now. So I started diving into literally like my assistant. We took a laptop and we'd go to a park and he'd stand there and hold it. And I'd talk about the park and the community around the park. And that is literally how I started doing video. And then fast forward like about a year later, I started trying to incorporate videos into listings and not just videographer comes and does like virtual toury type things or takes a quick video with their thing. I wanted to really start selling community around the listings. And so we do the same thing, take the laptop to the house and try to film it. And they were horrible and they are still on YouTube. I've struggled with, do I delete all of those? But I've left them. They're there.
I show people
And
my old videos just to
oh
show
man.
progress.
Yeah. My coach was like, do we think we need to start a new YouTube page? And I was like, backing up a little bit, I started doing YouTube and Facebook, found my home on Instagram later and got off the YouTube train when Instagram went all vertical because it is time consuming as heck to do both. And this year, my goal is to get back on YouTube and I've started that. But anyway, don't judge me based on YouTube right now, but I did used to do a lot of YouTube. But yeah, so with how can I incorporate community, build a brand, and not only sell the home through these listing videos, but sell the lifestyle and what's around the house. And so fast forward to like early 2014, I was like, you know what? I got to make these videos bigger. So I had a really cool listing coming on at the time, probably one of the coolest ones I had in a long time. And they had a pool. And I was like, I'm going to bring in my kids, my clients' kids, the neighbors, and I'm going to do this big production. And we literally probably 12 hours shooting that day, went to local schools and parks in the Old Town area. And we just shot a ton of video, used the house, put the kids in the pool, did a ton of stuff. And it was super cool. It gained a lot of traction. I was like, okay, this is what I need to like hone in on like moving forward. Of course, doing something like that now for me with all my listings is not realistic on every single listing shoot, but I do have a big list of things I choose from for each home when I'm trying to figure out the marketing. And if it's a home where I can do a cool story and include clients' kids or something to make it extra special, I will. It's just, it takes a lot of time.
I want to make a quick note for everybody listening. As you're listening to Marie, I want you to listen in two ways. I want one ear to listen to, you can also create the leverage that you need in lead generation by creating the exposure through social media, through video. So I want you to think, it doesn't matter whether she's an agent. And I think everybody here knows that I coach other industries. Doesn't matter what industry you are, you have to create exposure. So that's one ear I want you to listen to. The second ear that I want you to listen to is that if you're working with agents and you want to help them with their business, show them this interview, let them listen as well too, like what they can do, because you've got a top agent like Marie that's doing successful things, that she's creating leverage. And if they need help with their first video, you got to go to the park or whatever that it is. That's really how you create strong bonds and partnerships. So anyways, just a little pause right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of propelled into some community stuff. I decided I'd go around and get some just template community stuff that I can start throwing into every listing video just to save myself some time. And then that just over time evolved. I started doing, well, COVID hit. We're going to fast forward a little bit more. And I have a huge heart for small business owners. So for me, I knew, okay, how can I really tie in real estate to like a passion and what I love? And never went into it thinking, oh, this is going to get me a ton of business. It was honestly just, this is what I really like and enjoy and I can use my platform, which at the time wasn't huge community wise. I started to become that go-to in the community for, oh my gosh, what's your favorite restaurant? We're just moving here. Where should we go? And I was like, okay, this kind of community mayor thing is a thing. And so during COVID, I did a few things. I started interviewing some like local business owners on Zooms that would go live. Fun fact there, again, never expected it, but the first 4 I did, they all ended up using me within a year. Never went into that ever thinking that would happen. Literally didn't know moving was going to even be on their radar. But the things that this will snowball into are things you don't even ever expect, right? I think if you're
Yeah.
doing something good and intentional and out of your own passion and heart and no expectations, like it's just been crazy, mind blowing to me. But I then, like, everybody was struggling, and I'm in a small town, and Chris knows. And it was hard for me to watch all these business owners that are having like close their doors, not open. How are we going to serve food as a restaurant? And Oregon was very particular. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to have each business owner send me like little note to the community. And then we made this collab video that was like a bunch of business owners in Sherwood, and it just blew up. And then I started doing some good news Sherwood for my town and incorporated kids. And then I started a Facebook group for local businesses. And it just, that kind of combined with what I had already been doing really set the stage for that next level for me. I've been doing these Marie B in the community videos. They really hadn't taken off, but I feel like after I did all of that is when they started getting more traction too. For me, it was incorporating things I love, which was community and small businesses with real estate. And that's what led to everything. Now I do try to still mix in some educational video content and design trends. And for me, it's okay. What will bring value to my sphere? The cool thing I feel like is I don't even have 10,000 followers, but the followers that I do have are like legit. I will say, of course, there's going to be some that are just random, but it's really all organic. This was a slow roll. It was not overnight. One video went viral and you got 10,000 new followers that mean nothing and will never mean anything. So for me, it's really quality over quantity with everything. And am I providing value, whether it's to my community, to future clients, to current clients, to my sphere? And if it doesn't line up with that, I'm not going to do it.
And it's entertaining. I've got some
There's been a
comments,
few
but
questionable ones lately.
it's very entertaining. But let me pause for a second because let's watch actually a couple of her
Oh,
stories.
no.
There's actually a really entertaining one that we can see right now. Let's see if there's some music.
Don't
So
show
this
my
just look,
notes.
look at just Monday AM, right? She's just showing her life. This one cracked me up,
Got nothing to get up with. Got nothing to get up with.
right? It's just
Got nothing to get up with.
it's just consistent.
Hey, everybody, happy Monday. So I know a lot of you are feeling the same way about today.
So we've seen that.
So yeah, lots in the works.
Does a bit of that. Ask Marie, so she does Q&A, promoting what you're doing today. It's fun, it's entertaining, but you made a couple of points that we've heard from Gary Vaynerchuk a lot, and Coach Rob has said this, is go out there and literally interview everybody in the community. Because ultimately, and I think I have to remind loan officers, because I think it's a little more difficult to loan officers because sometimes we feel like we're just the financing part, but we're really a mechanism for helping buy a home. So just focus on home buying, focus on the community. And Rob actually had a chance to talk to Gary Vaynerchuk personally. And Gary said, go literally interview every single business owner in the community because people are interested in that. But then you get to know the business owners. You might do their loan. They're going to refer you business. And just think to yourself, you're just part of this huge community. Crystal Mucha, who I interviewed at the Mega in June. Lindsay, if you can put the link for that. I spoke to her 2 weeks ago and she said, I'm all about community. And if loan officers want to work with me, if you can help me create exposure in a community, I'm game. It's not necessarily about value this and value that. She's the overall value is what I can do to the community. And that's what creates, that's what creates the exposure. And so don't think that you have to sit and talk about the different loan program or like what's going on with the economic market all the time, but also be entertaining because the fact of the matter is that Marie, your stories are entertaining. Right. And so you got to make it a little bit of fun and then you have to show a heart. And also there is a huge movement toward quantity over quality over quantity. Definitely that. And oh, one last thing. Deborah Bird, as everybody knows, who helps us with social media, who's Denise Donahue's twin sister, who is going to be on in a bit. She says, just be the digital mayor of maybe 3 to 10,000. That's all you need. You don't need massive. My following is like 3,000, but I've got a pretty just deep reach with every single person. I think everybody here I've just DM'd personally to some degree. And so let's talk a little bit about, because I think people need to understand this, the timeline of effect. Like when did things really start where you felt like this is the right thing to do? Was it immediate? Did it take a while? Because I'm sure there's moments where you're like, with, especially with some people, man, I've been doing a video for a year. I don't get much out of it. I don't. So what was the patience level for you to really see results?
I think I didn't have a ton of expectation the first couple years. It was just gonna try something new. No one's really doing this. I honestly, I would look at other markets because no offense to like my market, but we're just never like leading cutting edge here. I
Yeah.
have to look in California or like New York or like somewhere else to get ideas for things. And I had seen some people here or there starting to do some things. And I was like, okay, like maybe I can make this my own and figure out how to spin what they're doing. And I like to look at other industries too. And I think that goes back to a lot of loan officers thinking, I can't do this. It's all about the loan. It's all about the financing. And for me, I was really stuck in the whole like, not all my listings are like pretty or cute. They don't look good. Some of them are really low price points. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of really high price points. And so I was like, how can I still do this where it's providing value and branding me, but still showing off listings in the best light that they can, even though they might not be the best listings. And I think that we all get stuck in our heads about like, how does this tie into what we're doing? And even me, I struggle with imposter syndrome when I was trying to do this community stuff at first, because I was like, people are going to be like, what is she doing? She's a real estate agent. Like she shouldn't. But I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I think if we're just posting homes and if we're just posting about loan types and, oh, here's a new loan program, I don't think people really truthfully care about that. I think it's about finding what your tribe likes, what you like. If you're posting things that you like, you're going to attract that. I know it's like really overused with your vibe attracts your tribe, but it's so dang true. If you're posting and living and breathing and authentic to what you like, you're going to attract like warm, amazing leads. And for you guys, realtors that are like you and will use you. And so I think you can tie in other things. I think there's a big misconception. We all have it in our heads that we kind of have to stay in our own lanes, but I think you can tie in a couple lanes together, make it work. But in terms of, I totally lost with the question on that. Even what? I'm sorry.
No, this is okay.
Way
No,
off
just
tangent on
in
that.
terms of like when you really started to
Oh
see
yeah.
the difference of either people reaching out to, I think a lot of people think that social and video, it's not necessarily a lead, it's not always a lead generation mechanism. Sometimes it's just it's recognition and brand, it's
Mhm.
credibility, but it's also, would you also agree that since you've done this, it's forced you to connect with the community and to really get out and be proactive with relationships? You're not just sitting in front
Yeah.
of the camera. Like a lot of your camera work is out there. You're with
Mhm.
friends, you're with business owners, you're with loan officers, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So first couple years, didn't expect anything. I would say after I did that first kind of bigger listing video in 2014, I wasn't getting like the views or I feel like the first one you always get a lot of comments on. You're like, oh, cool. And then you post another one that's a similar idea. And then the comments just fall off because people are used to like, oh, she did something similar with this one. So I remember getting in my head a little bit, but going to a grocery store and that was probably in 2015, and a random person coming up to me and being like, oh my gosh, like, I just want to say how much I love that video you did about this house. And I was like, I didn't even know you saw that. Like, you never commented, you never liked it. And I think that's when I realized, and we all know this now, is like so many people are seeing our stuff, even if they're not commenting.
Yeah. They're
And I,
just,
I was like, okay, like, this is going to work. This is working. And then it just really snowballed. And I got a Street of Dreams listing and got great exposure on that in 2018. And then I remember in 2020, I really dove in so COVID hit in March. In April, I was like full force, whatever I can do in the community videos, that page, like all these things. And I got a random message from someone I had never met. And they were like, hey, we weren't sure where to leave this for you, but we left you a gift at the local Dutch Brothers. It's at the window. The people know, go pick it up. And I was like, a gift? Like what? Well, why me? And she was like, I just love what you're doing and you're making such a big impact on the community. And I was like, and that was the first of a lot of those, honestly. And I was like, wow, like, first of all, no one needs to give me any gifts, but just that, even that pat on the back from random people I didn't even know, hey, you're making a difference. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be good. Even if it doesn't serve me in a more business way, like I'm doing the right thing. And of course, it does end up serving you in a more business way. And the relationships I've built with these business owners now, it's amazing. It's been really awesome. So,
what about your interaction? Because I think a lot of people don't talk about this. A lot of times, even in social media, we almost treat it a little bit too much like YouTube, where it's just a video one way. But when you get comments, when you get DMs, how do you use social to proactively reach out the other way to respond to people? But also,
yeah.
I'm sure you also proactively connect with people on social media not always through video. Maybe you're following somebody that you like and you create relationships. Let's talk a little bit about that side, because that's the really
Yeah.
underspoken side.
It is. It's huge. I am actually speaking at the Tom Ferry event in a couple weeks. And one of the things I'm diving into is like keeping the social in social media. I think we do get hung up on, okay, we just got that video posted and now I can move on to the next thing. We really can't. You need to be engaged. You need to respond to comments. Like, and that's just the video side. But for me, I really do use it like listen, like it's a great listening tool. And I think people forget that. Listen to what your sphere is doing, what life events they have, what they're going through. If I see that somebody just announced they're having a baby, like it's the perfect opportunity for me to send a little gift to them and be like, oh my gosh, congratulations. So that's a whole nother side of my business. I'm really big on like gifting and pop buys and just client connections, but it ties in so perfectly with social media because they're all giving us insight to their lives, like daily. Look at your sphere's story. Look at the realtors you want to work with and what they're doing and how you can just pop into their lives like on the side without being like the high pressure VA calling to set up an appointment. I love talk about that.
I talk about that a lot, like the traditional mortgage knowledge is call agents and set up. But the thing is that you have no context. And so the modern way of doing it is you follow agents, you follow their lives, you get to know their lives, you comment on their lives. And so connecting with them, you've created that relationship. Like even us, we bantered a couple times, but even following you, I got it just in your life. And I'm sure you look at what I'm doing, and that's how you really get to really forge relationships with your business partners. And so I like what you said is like bring the social back into social media. You need to use it as a tool. That's why I've never overplayed how many followers I have. But if you look at how many people I follow, right, that's important. So I think it's interesting sometimes, and it's not necessarily a hard, fast rule, but I'll see somebody with 20,000 followers, but they follow like 10 people. And so I ask myself, what are they doing to actually be interested in other people and to engage in the relationships that way, right? And all the messages and things like that. I want to transition a little bit more just into general business and some of the things that you're doing, but is there anything else that you can think of right now in terms of social, whether it's filming or editing or working with an assistant that's really made things a lot easier? You do a lot of your filming with somebody as well too. And do you do what a lot of people do? You batch content. So you do 10 videos in a session. And I think that's.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So my video guy, I've actually he was the one holding the laptop for me, honestly. And at the time he was my assistant, worked for me solely for a long time during COVID. We had a work divorce and he started his own video company. I was client number one. And so I'm still using him to this day, just in a different capacity. We do batch and I do still do my own things. Like, and I'll even take cuts of like B-roll that he's done to create my own thing. So it's really a combination of stuff, but like any listing videos he's doing, like today I'll probably shoot a green screen, like we have to be real careful with coming soon rules here, but I'm going to do something with a coming soon listing I have and I'll shoot that. So I do shoot, but I just couldn't do it all. And so it's helpful to have that. But yeah, we'll batch. So tomorrow when I'm doing design trends, we'll hopefully get enough content for 5 to 8 videos. It's not going to be a suit. Last year, I think I did 12, but I just don't have as much time tomorrow. And then we're shooting a listing. And on every listing shoot, I will try to shoot enough so that, again, I have anywhere from enough content for 8 to 12 videos. Now, I'm not going to be in all of those, but if the house doesn't sell in a week or a month or 4 months, like I don't want to just roll over and play dead with listings. So I want new marketing where I can just message him a trending song and be like, hey, I need B-roll to this song, or hey, can you use that one intro line I shot? So I'll normally shoot a few intro lines, a short walk through, a long walk through, a speed run. I have a list of probably 10 different video styles that I'll just pull from on every listing. And I will bring outfit changes. I will do all the things to batch and batch all day.
It's become a full-time job. But I just believe that the modern agent, the modern loan officer, it's like the face of your business has changed. By the way, you're speaking at a Tom Ferry event. What are you speaking about?
Oh man, how to turn likes into listings.
There we go. So social media expert over here.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully I don't bomb it, but yeah,
No.
it's a big I don't do these kinds of things, so that's new to me. But yeah, one of the things actually, because of having to prep for that, and I'm not going to say this, and I'm not saying this in a cocky, not humble way, but one of the things they wanted me to talk about, does it actually work? And I'm like, it does work. Like I had to go through every transaction last year and like source where it came from, what was the secondary source, because all my business is pretty much sphere and referrals. And I started doing social media really to stay in front of my community and my sphere, but also their sphere. And so everyone's oddly connected in terms of the referrals I get. So even if it's like a lead from Instagram, it's likely connected to somebody I've worked with. So I went through and
Yeah.
did like, where did it come from? What was the secondary source too? And crazy, you guys, over 500,000 of GCI from Instagram.
There you
Not
go.
kidding. Last year,
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
So pretty darn crazy. And it does work. So that,
I want everybody to quote that and send out to some of the naysayers that say social media. What
yeah,
century do you live in?
I don't even know. I was literally adding all this stuff and I was like, no way. And then even ones where I was like, no, they're my sphere. And then I had to think
Yeah.
back, how did they become on my sphere? And I was like,
But
oh,
I
they
like what
became
you
on my
said.
sphere.
I like what you said, because there are some naysayers like social media doesn't bring you leads. It's when you call. It's like, yeah, but when you really do the connections between how I created this brand, maybe who I knew them from, because if you
Mhm.
created a referral relationship with somebody and you have a relationship with them on social media, right? For example, let's just say that one of you loan officers does connect with somebody in person, but if you're maintaining the relationship on social media, and that relationship maintenance is what creates that trust, then you're getting business from social media. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily because you did this cool dancing video that this buyer just called you and said, I want to buy a house. It's because you're using that as a tool to create your relationships, right? And there's a lot of people on this call. I want to say even like a Rich Hayden, who I've just known for over 10 years. And we finally get to work together just because of the friendships that we've created. So really great insight. And I like how you just, at the end of the year, you went back. I think that's really important, is that for everybody to look at their 2024 numbers and really do analytics. Coach Rob is huge on analytics, and like, where did you get the business from? Because most people are actually really talented in getting business. They're not, but they're not putting in the talent and effort to the consistency of repeating that funnel. And it's just like they just want to move on to the next thing. And so if you're going to figure out that over 500,000 in GCI comes from that, then keep doing that. Just keep running that play. But let's transition into just a little bit more of the landscape, because I think I want to hear from the agent side. How did you feel about the 2024 market? Was it a lot tougher than 2023? Do you think 2025 is going to be easier? Higher prices, higher rates? And we'll delve a little bit into the NAR thing. But overall, how has that affected you? Or are you going to prove my point? There's like lower class and there's upper class. You're going to go hard or you're going to struggle. Like, how was
Yeah.
2024 for you relative to like even 2023?
Yeah. So 2023 was probably my roughest year, honestly, just all around. And I'm one that like hates going backwards. So like every year I'm trying to like better myself, do better, do more, whatever. It's definitely been like blessing and a curse, right? But so 2023, I went backwards and it was just really tough. I feel like at the end of 22, things came to a halt. I was like, oh my gosh, like what it's just, I don't even really know how to explain it. But 2023 was just going through the motions for me and like survival to like some degree. And then last year, I felt like the momentum picked back up 2024, but it was hard. Like I worked my butt off. I literally like and I'm not kidding, like up till 11 or 12, like almost probably 5 nights a week working, and then back up at 5 a.m. working, and just every waking hour. I have 3 boys, very active, and 15, 12, and 8. So like in ages that like still need me a lot. And so just trying to balance the craziness of work and that. And it was just a lot. I was actually messaging my managing broker last night and she was like, looking back, like, how was it? And I was like, it was freaking hard. Like I don't know if I can do that again, but and I lost a lot of listings that we just couldn't sell. I had a 2 million pending for 4 months. The buyer just it that's a long story as to why, but the buyers just decided not to buy it. And I just had a lot of those where it's like you're putting in so much work and so much effort, and then I know we all can relate to this, and it just goes away. And it was hard. And so I feel like the last couple months, like I feel like there's a ton of pent up demand, at least in our area, and I think nationwide too. And I got a little slow before October from like my listings getting showings. And I was like, oh, this is weird, but it's probably the election. And then I expected things to pick up after the election. They really didn't here. But I will tell you, I've never had a busier like December 15th to right now than I've ever had. So I feel like this year it's just going to be, unless some external factors change everything. I think it's finally buyers have come to Jesus. The rates are what they are. I think if people have been putting
After
aside, I think if people have been putting aside that they want to move and just haven't because they've been waiting, I think this is a year that everyone's just going to decide to start living life again. I really do. And I
yeah,
think we're still going to get the naysayers and the people that are just like, we can't do it. We're not giving up our rate and whatever. That's fine. But I do think a big chunk of people are just over it. And I think they're over waiting. And I really feel that. Not going to say it's going to be like easy by any means. I think we're still going to have a lot of hurdles and
yeah.
stuff. But
I think we're in an upward trend. I think we're in an
yeah,
upward trend. So, from the perspective of a loan officer, one of the things about scaling is to be able to add people to your team. And I think agents have this ability to add a loan officer to their team to help them with things. And I work with loan officers that are very willing to contribute and help agents with their business. From your perspective, given everything that's out there, and we've got NAR, that's a whole conversation in itself. We have multiple offers. We've got social media, things like that. What are your suggestions, not just for you, but other agents? Like we're loan officers, because loan officers always ask themselves all the time, I want to add value to real estate agents. But from your perspective, if I had to ask your opinion, what can loan officers really do to add value to your business that you'd be like, you know what, you're somebody that I'm going to start paying attention to, and I'm going to start valuing, I'm going to start trusting you. I mean, there's the whole gamut. Obviously, there's closing the loans, but I think that helping you
I hope
with
you're feeling better, first
community,
of all, and
multiple offers,
hope
there's a
that
lot of different things, right? Give me one
you're,
second. I just
I'm
want to
sure you're
mute everybody. If you can unmute yourself really quickly, Marie, if you can unmute yourself.
got it. Okay.
I just had to mute. But where do you think loan officers could provide value to you so that you could not only see their worth, but also take advantage of expanding your team and helping with your costs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard one for multiple reasons because I know you guys probably all feel the same. As you don't want to get pigeonholed until you only work with one person. And I deal with this with inspectors, all kinds of trades, and we have to be really careful with obviously referrals and not just referring one person in any avenue. Like with inspectors, I'm always referring four just to be safe. I think obviously you have the steps of the offer process and what you can do to team up. For me, I don't want to have to worry that we're going to have any issues at all. Like I just want to be able to be like, okay, this part's in your hands and I know we're going to be taken care of. And that's like the biggest thing. But in terms of adding value, yes, I do think depending on what the agents are doing that you're working with, I do think there's huge opportunities with community stuff, whether that's doing videos or little community events or seminars or classes or whatever it could be. I think there's a lot of ways that you can team up with an agent to do something outside of the box for sure. Even little events like last day of school, like work with a local bakery and an agent and set up a little table and have kids and parents come and grab a free cookie after school. There's literally so many things you could do.
Yeah. And this is
So,
exactly what Crystal said. She said, I'm about building community, and yeah, we can talk about the loans, and obviously you can help me with multiple offers and things like that. But if you can help me with what I do with my job, which is get my name out there, get your name out there, we can do it together. And also more fun when you do it with other people too, or else just out there by yourself. It's fun to set up a booth, a table, or go to an event with somebody else. And I want to say this to all the loan officers listening. Don't make it so transactional. Like Marie's not an alien. She can be your friend. You can hang out, you can have some coffee, have fun with it, right? I think that's another part of it is just have fun. And I've gotten to know Chris a little bit. And I'm like, oh, Chris seems like a fun person. You've done a couple things together. But that seems like the overarching theme, everything that you've talked about to build community, to build exposure, everything that Crystal talked about 6 months ago was you want to provide value. Help me do that. But I also think that in helping you do that, then they also create exposure for themselves. And so
yeah.
if your loan officer says, I don't know where to start with community, we'll team up with an agent and do community together. So you're not going to feel like you're on this island and, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel stupid. And there's a lot of agents like you that are already doing community. And let's face it, Marie, you're always looking for new ideas. You're always looking for something fresh. And so if a loan officer approaches you and says, hey, you know what, do you want to do this like thing at the bakery and for the school thing this week? You're like, thank you for giving me an idea. So you don't
Yeah.
think about things all the time. And I think that this is where, when you look at the modern loan officer, we're going to start to blur the lines between, are you just finance and are you just negotiating the contract with, you really just, you both have one goal, is to put people in the homes, helping.
Mhm.
And also, I think it's underestimated how many loan officers can help listing agents and what they do, because we're in a market right now where, there was a time that listing agents, that's all I do is listings, but listing agents are doing buys, they're doing referrals and everything else too. You got to do what you got to do to make money. Just sidebar, how has NAR affected you has it affected you at all in your market in terms of the buyer's agents and negotiating commissions and things like that?
I haven't felt a huge effect necessarily yet. I've done buyer brokers agreements for years just because the company made us. But the biggest difference for me was doing them now upfront before we ever show a house versus I would just send them out when I do my first contract, which I know is terrible, but that's what I would do. So that part for me has been a little bit more challenging. But I only had pushback from one person, and they were an attorney. And before we even started chatting, they were a referral from a loan officer, actually. And they had told me they tried to sue the MLS years ago for not being able to put coming soons on. So I was like, oh, this one's going to be fun. And sure enough, it died. And I was like, that's fine. I don't really necessarily want to work with them anyway, if that's how that's going to be. Outside of that, I think the hardest thing is just working with some builders that don't pay a commission. That's been my biggest struggle. Is I've not had a problem on the resale market. I feel like most sellers are still in the camp of, we want to sell our house, like we're going to pay it. But it's like Lennar nationwide, it's like 1%. And that's been my struggle. And then trying to structure it, because they're like, we won't let you add it on as a closing cost. And I'm like, what? Why? It's not even affecting you. So that's been really the biggest hurdle for me is Lennar.
So you feel like the listing agents, because a lot of them are buyers agents, that they understand it's one community. They don't want to draw a line in the sand. They still want to, they still want to be an agent like everybody else. And nope, we're going to stick through this together. That's what you found. Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right. I'm going to bring in John. Are you ready, bud? And Denise, are you ready? I'm just going to add them to the mix really quickly.
Yeah.
And what's up, John Cornish? I'll do a formal introduction, and I'll do a formal introduction with Denise. But like, Denise, I know you've been listening probably for at least the last half hour. What a great Marie and her story and how she built her digital brand and everything. But
Amazing.
do you two have any other comments or questions for her before she goes, and how she built her business, or maybe how she sees partnerships or anything like that? Put you guys on the spot, but I figured that was a different segue. I think the two of you, let me ask you a different question. Denise, I'm going to,
Yeah.
You are also a huge social media community type person. How many of your agents are to Marie's level of there? And how many people do you work with that are like that? And how many people that you work with are not? And maybe you help them uplift themselves to that level of exposure and community. What do you see out there?
So what I think is 95% of the real estate agents I work with are not like her. But I think what makes her different is I do have a good amount that post, and it's fun, but they post and ghost. There's not really a whole lot of intention behind it. So when she's talking about how you have to engage and comment, and like, that's the biggest piece to the puzzle that I see agents missing. And so that's like someone showing up to your open house and saying, tell me about the home. And then you just like not responding. Like, you can't do that. And so I think we get into this mindset of, I have to be on social, so let me do all this crap for social. And I did it. And then I'm off social and I'm moving on to the next thing. And so I just say, for everybody that's listening to this call, for agents, loan officers, my word for 2025 is intention. Whatever you're doing, whatever Zoom you're on, the call you're on right now with Kai, every call that you're on with Kai, any call that you have with a real estate agent, anything that you're doing, like, show up intentional. And if you do that consistently, no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's social media or it's hosting open houses or it's doing your hour a day power calls, like, you're going to be in a better spot in 90 days or 180 days. But I just don't find a whole lot of people intentional on social media. They're just going through the motions. And so you're going to get results that are just going through the motions. Don't expect A-level results if you're putting forth C-level effort. Like, you just can't. So
yeah, I love that. I love that feedback. And not only is that great feedback for loan officers that are trying to build their brand, but the loan officers here can then relay that message to agents and help them build their brand. And that's the type of value. Again, anything that you can do to help your agent partners build themselves up, that's great. John, I gave you a couple seconds. Did you have any insights or questions?
Yeah, The percentage of it is very similar to what Denise said. I do have one that I'm very close with, probably one of my closest referral partners, and who's now a personal friend, and has introduced me to a lot of other agents that I think is on a very similar level. And everything she said is true. The one thing that I will add is her passion level is outmatched of everybody else. So not only do you have to have the intent and that you have to have the focus and the execution and the discipline, you can't fake it when you don't love something. And when somebody loves something and they're dialed in like she is, it's a different outcome. And until you get to the level where you have that obsession and that commitment, it's going to be hard for anybody to keep up, because that obsession and that commitment is what drives you to do the things that you need to do that are easy to do occasionally, and they're hard to do consistently. And excellence comes from executing consistently. Whether it's my kid playing baseball, daughter playing volleyball, or your business, the consistency is where it comes in. Seeing somebody that's on her level from a commitment standpoint, I would call it obsession, which I would consider myself obsessed. It's hard for people to compete with you when they don't have that much passion.
There's a really good TED
lead
talk.
them and you can provide insight, but they're never going to get to where you're at.
And there's a really good TED talk on passion isn't always the prerequisite. A lot of times the passion comes from seeing it slowly grow and seeing the success, and you finally get addicted to, oh my gosh, this is working. And then now you're just passionate about keeping the machine running. Right. And that's what happened over time. But Marie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the random, hey, do you want to be a guest on my mega? She's like, really, me? This isn't what I do, even though you're like this great community influencer. And I'll be seeing you around with our June and LFG and everything else. But thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions for Marie, do me a favor and shoot myself or Lindsay an email, and maybe we'll send a couple over to you if you can help out. But
Yes, of course. Yeah, thank you. I did see one comment just about what I said about referring people, and I feel bad. Obviously with inspectors, we have to be so careful, I think, in our industry, just because if we refer one inspector and they use them and that inspector misses something, like that's on us, like honest, like that can come back to us. When I'm talking about referring multiple with lenders, honestly, I will refer like typically two, but I will say, here's who I think you're going to connect with more based on my experience with them. And this is why. And almost always they go with that person, but like to cover our asses, sorry. Like we just have to be careful. And I don't expect the lender to always refer me. I would never build a relationship with a lender thinking like, you're going to just use me. Like that's small scale thinking, like honestly. So I'm hoping that those lenders that I have relationships with will refer me to people they think I'm going to mesh well with and that I'd be the best person to serve them. And I think we all have to have that mindset. That's just my opinion.
When you said that to me, you'd mentioned that to me the other day. I did not imagine you saying, here's 3 business cards. I think that's typically what people think about. When I talked to my loan officer and I was looking for an agent in Austin to buy a house, he said, look, I know 3 realtors. Let me tell you a little bit about each one. I think this one's the one for you. That's really what you're talking about. It's just letting people know that I know a good mix of experts that fit different areas. I'm going to tell you that I know them. And I think I'm going to lean toward this, but you have these other options if you want to. And I think that's a little bit different than the typical, here's 3 business cards. I don't know, they'll give you the best rates and then like, good luck. Right? That's not really
Long-term connections, right? These are hopefully not just one home and one loan and done. You're building a long-term relationship with these people. So yeah, you want to be in their corner. You want whoever they're working with to be in their corner. I don't want to give them somebody they're not going to mesh well with at all.
Well, go ahead, John.
Yeah. I think loan officers need to take more accountability in absolutely killing it when they get the opportunity and making it almost impossible for the agent to want to refer anybody else. So if we look at the things that we can control, I'll take any at bat. Listen, send them 3 names, send them 5 names. I'll take my chances because I know the value that I provide to my clients and the process that we're going to have. I'll fight with anybody. So take the accountability of doing such a good job and providing such a value to your agent partners and creating a process that your customers love that they don't want to work with anybody else. And when you do that, you win, and the realtor still gets an opportunity to cover their rear end, because I completely understand where she's coming from there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I say the same thing. Bring it on. Go ahead and refer 2 coaches. Let's see how the conversations go.
Yeah.
I'm going to win every time. All right, Lee, I think you've run an hour, and we hit the hour mark right at 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you so much again. We will be in contact. Happy
Thank you.
Have you on sometime again in the future.